Don't you know, pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up.
What is going on, everybody? And welcome to another edition of Brewing at McEwen's Thirsty Thursdays. I'm your host today, John Kaplan, and with me today, as usual, is El Presidente Mark Giardino, and we have a very special guest from inside the Burrow, Richard Pereira. Before we get further into that introduction, I would like to remind our listeners to be sure to subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you listen on so we can continue to support and promote our USF baseball team. We've got a tasty show for you today, so let's get to sipping. I'm going to pass it to you, Mark.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, so we are here with Richard Pereira from Inside the Burrow podcast. They do a lot of coverage of FAU sports. They cover all the sports from what I've seen. But we are having him on today to talk about the upcoming series between USF and FAU this weekend. It's going to be played in Tampa. Richard, how are you doing?
Doing great, guys. I know it's going to be a very exciting series between two teams who are in state and looking to get a huge series win to get up in the conference standings. Going to be a big one for this upcoming weekend.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thinking about FAU baseball, that's a pretty historically solid program. They have a lot of NCAA tournament appearances. I grew up in South Florida when I was up till I was about 10 or 12 years old, and I used to go to their games. It's a really good program, always competitive. But the last few years, FAU hasn't made it to the NCAA regionals since 2019. So I just wanted to ask you, how are fans feeling about the FAU program the last few years? Do you feel like you guys are heading in the right direction? How's it been going the last few years for FAU baseball, you think?
Yes, of course. So for FU baseball over the years, they've been remarkably consistent under longtime coach John McCormick. Throughout the past few decades, he's been galvanizing the troops on the team every year after year, even with every changing roster. He's never had a losing season. So his resume of getting these teams to multiple regionals and on once in a blue moon a super regional, it's something to really admire from Coach Mack. And since 2019, they've been very consistent. Uh, they just haven't had the records like needed to get garner that recognition for at the very least an at-large bid to qualify for the regionals or making a deep run in their conference tournament to have the chance to clinch an automatic bid to the tournament. So, like, but even without an appearance in the regionals since 2019, they've always had solid rosters that include excellent batters and on occasion a very good bullpen. And for this year, they've had a great bullpen, but the hitting hasn't been quite up to par as in recent years. So it's just a matter of finding that right mix of guys who can command batting unit as well as the bullpen.
Definitely, definitely. And speaking of a history of great hitters, I wanted to ask you about Nolan Shawnoel. He's a player that I got to see play in person last year. My
Mhm.
brother and I, we attended USF's series at FAU last season down in Boca. And we knew that Shawnuel was a good player, but I don't think anybody could have expected that same season he would actually be playing in a major league game, not a minor league game, a major league game for the Los Angeles Angels. Just wanted to ask you, like, did you cover him at all? Did you ever talk to him, or even just like what was his impact on the program, and what did it mean to the program to see one of their guys make the majors so fast?
Yeah, definitely. I've talked to Nolan a couple of times. One during a few times during the game before the game start, and then the last time I talked to him was when he made a surprise appearance at the basketball arena when the basketball team, after making their Final Four run, they hung the banner into their rafters and made a surprise appearance there. And I got to talk to him for a little bit, talking to him about how he's been enjoying his time in the pros. And oh yeah, having had the opportunity to cover Nolan that year, it was truly remarkable. Like the way he just led the guys as the best hitter on that team, like having a batting average over 400 and just getting home run after home run after home run, like making pitchers scared to even go against him, that he has to get a lot of walks. Like that was the presence he commanded at the plate when he steps up to bat. And I can't help but feel proud that Nolan basically broke a barrier that allowed him to become the first ever player from FU to get drafted in the first round. So the fact that he was able to do that, that will always allow me to have a lot of respect for what he's done for the program, and that he's continued to support the program even since gotten drafted, which is highly commendable for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a really unique story to make it to the majors in the same year that you're playing college baseball. But yeah, I mean, that's huge for the program to see a guy make it that quickly. I'm sure it's been inspirational to the rest of the team as well. And then, thinking about the current FAU team and the season that they're having this year, it's maybe a little bit below kind of the standard that they've recently had. And it really a lot of that boils down to kind of a similar problem as USF. They're just kind of on a bad streak lately. The past couple of weeks, your guys' record is still a winning record overall. You're 20-18 with a 7-8 record in the conference, but the last 12 games, the Owls are 3-9. So what are you kind of looking for from FAU, and who are a couple of key players on the FAU roster that Bulls fans should look out for?
Yeah, definitely. It's been very surprising to see them uh, playing in the slump that they're in right now. Like before the slump, they were 17-9, a very good record to not like underestimate. But since this slump, 3-9, their last 12 is to really boil down to a few things. One, the hitting being up and down and the runs not being as frequent as they were when they were 17-9. So, and then the bullpen, like after like CJ Williams, Tyler Murphy, or Trey Beard come off the mound to finish their starts, the relieving, like even though they were very good to start the season, especially from Danny Trehe, who is the best reliever from the bullpen, he gets a lot of strikeouts at such a high rate, in over 29 innings pitched,
Yeah,
and
definitely. I did notice that it really seems like the pitching rotation is kind of centered around like two really good starters and one really good reliever in Danny Trehe. But yeah, it seems like they struggle to find consistency pitching wise outside of that.
yeah, and,
Um,
and following on. Yeah, with the pitching, CJ Williams, easily the star. Like he's coming off a Friday performance against Tulane where he shut them out 5-0, and he played the entire game, which is the first time he completed a game in his FEU career. So a commendable performance from him, and he was rewarded with that by winning the conference pitcher of the week. So very proud of him for achieving that accomplishment. So I'm just hoping that he maintains that performance heading into Friday night, to begin the series against USF. And then when it comes to the hitting, you do have Christian Adams, who is leading the team with the batting average of 308. And while Jalen DeBose is leading the team in batting average with the 325 average, so but considering the amount of games he's played, he's kind of like second on the list because he hasn't played the whole season because he could miss a couple of games due to injury. But when it comes to hitters to keep an eye on, Christian Adams, Pat Dylan DeBose, and John Schroeder, who is very effective with getting home runs on the board. He's also somebody worth looking out for. And then Emilio Gonzalez, who to me, has a very remarkable swing. Like when he strikes that ball, you can hear it clear as day. It's clear as day. You can hear it loud and clear. He has a very strong swing, and he's definitely capable of making contributions throughout the series against USF.
nice. Yeah. I noticed those names as well when I was looking at you guys. another question for you is what is your prediction for the upcoming weekend? Who do you think will win the series, and will it be a series win? Will it be a sweep, and why do you think that?
Hmm. Yeah, this series is pretty big for both teams for plenty of reasons. Obviously, they have identical records, and then they have the same conference records at 7-8, and they're currently going through their respective slumps, with FU being 3-9 in the last 12, and then USF losing four straight, and then including six of their last seven. So getting a series win in this matchup is huge for both teams. Um, for me, I don't think it will end up in a sweep. I think it's going to be very competitive from both sides. So as the FU homer, that I'll have to lean towards FU coming out with the series win. They really need a series win on the record right now, especially on the road, where they haven't been at their best compared to when they play at home. They're currently 4-10, which is tied for the worst record in the American. But of course, USF's they have their guys. John Montez leading the team with 340 average. Ben Rosenblum, being the undisputed leader in stolen bases with 18 and 20 attempts. And then when it comes to home runs, Jackson Mayo with seven and Bobby Boza with seven as well. So a lot of guys that FU has to be careful for when it comes to the hitting. And then Hunter Mink, the Friday night guy, 5.04 ERA, 61 strikeouts, which is when you look at CJ Williams for a comparison, he has 53. So Hunter Mink is like a strikeout pitcher. So it's something for FU to be very careful about heading into Friday night when it comes to taking on Hunter Meek at the mound.
Definitely, definitely. And my last question for you is do you think that FAU and USF are rivals? Do you feel
Mm.
like it's a rivalry? If yes or no, why?
Mm. For me, I want it to be a rivalry. And does it have potential to be a rivalry? Definitely. But at the moment, not yet. But of course, well, now that FU and USF are members in the same conference, there's a huge opportunity to take advantage of allowing these two teams to develop a rivalry with one another. Like for FAU, their typical rivalries against FIU, since they played each other a lot, even as non-conference opponents or when they used to be members in the same conference when they used to be in Conference USA last year. So a lot can be up for grabs for FEU and USF when it comes to developing that rivalry, whether it's in baseball, whether it's in football, whether it's in basketball, where the basketball matchup was very
That was
wow.
fun. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was fun.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure you two enjoyed that win over
We
the
did.
Owls.
We did.
We
Yeah,
enjoy any win over the Owls.
right. Right. But yeah, the basketball team having a spectacular season that they did. Sure, they crashed out in the conference tournament, but they did pretty good in the NIT. For FEU and USF to like develop that rivalry into becoming something bigger where both fan bases are they just love to go at each other, like having hostile environments from both sides. That is what makes rivalries great. And for FEU and USF, there's a lot of potential for that to be an amazing one, especially now that they're members in the same conference.
I agree. I agree. And yeah, we definitely enjoyed the matchups in basketball with you guys being a reigning Final Four team. And obviously, this baseball series is going to be tightly contested as well. So, should be good laying the foundation of that rivalry for sure.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, Richard, that's all the questions I had for you. I really appreciate you jumping on the show with us, and we'll stay in touch. And looking forward to seeing this series play out this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a very exciting series. And with FU and USF being in a four-way tie for fourth place in the conference alongside Tulane and Wichita State. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be very intense from here on out for teams not named East Carolina and UTSA, have done very good in the conference so far. So, but yeah,
Richard, have y'all played Wichita State yet?
yes, played them on the road, lost two of three. We won
So they
got the
so
opener, but
Tulane
lost the
Wichita
last two.
State as a tiebreaker against both of us, and that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So, but yeah, it's going to be a very tight battle for seeding in the conference once the conference tournament comes around. But yeah, a lot of games to go over. But for this series, it's going to be a fun one. I'm pretty sure I can definitely be confident in that.
Awesome.
Very good.
Well, thanks for jumping on, Richard. We appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate your time, Mark and John. Thanks for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you guys.
I want to make a little correction there, saying that Wichita State had the tiebreak against us. We actually swept them, so that was a error on my part. But moving on to round three, um, Mark, we heard from Richard about what his thoughts are on FAU. I have a few thoughts myself as well, but I'd like to chop it up with you a little bit. How's that sound?
Yeah, man, I think we can do a little debrief from that and some of our own research that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they really are one of the best pitching teams in this conference right now. They have the second best ERA, 4.53. They're good from a stuff standpoint. Like they can strike you out. They have a 23% strikeout rate, which is third best in the league. But one thing that kind of Richard kind of pointed at was it's kind of a top-heavy pitching staff. I feel like a lot of their good stats and production comes from a core of 3 to 4 guys, which is definitely not, it's not a bad thing, but just something to keep in mind. I mean, the top two starting pitchers are really good. CJ Williams, the senior right-handed pitcher, he's in his second year with FAU. He was a really good JUCO pitcher. And then their other really good pitcher is Tyler Murphy. He's 6'1", right-handed pitcher, sophomore. They're both originally from the South Florida area, so FAU did a good job of keeping their local talent and developing it well. I mean, these two guys, I think CJ has an ERA under 3. Tyler Murphy has an ERA under 4 or close to 4.
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts on them. What about you, John?
So yeah, I would say that it is a little bit top heavy as well. You've got those two key cogs in the starting rotation, CJ Williams and Tyler Murphy. But another guy I want to point out is Danny Trehe. He is a senior standing 6'4" on the mound. He's been pretty dominant for them thus far. He has 17 appearances, pitching 29 and 2/3 innings with a boasting a strike to walkout ratio of 45-12. That's almost 3-1. So just a second, what our friend Richard said, he definitely can fan some batters for sure. Really, I mean, the other two big names out of their bullpen, big is relative, is Sam Drumheller and Andrew Stevens. They are leading the team. They're amongst the higher appearances on the team with 14 and 17 respectively. But after that, you see their stats kind of drop off the shelf a little bit in terms of productivity and ERA and WHIP and all of that. So one name I want to shift this to the offense a minute, if that's all right with you, Marky
Yeah,
Boy,
go for it.
because one name that wasn't mentioned by Richard that I wanted to ask him about was Carter Brady. He's coming on really strong for them. He's got an OPS of around 815. You can tell that he maybe he was injured in the beginning of the season because he's got a lot less games played than the rest of the players, but in significantly less at bats. He's almost leading the team in home runs with 5. The leaders are at 6 and 7. He's got a slugging percentage of 505. I mean, the kid seems to be killing it too. So that just kind of goes along with Christian Adams and John Schroeder. But I think that this team, although that, I mean, it's kind of a similar story to the Bulls, right, Mark? Because I mean, like, I don't feel as though the product that we've been seeing on the field is indicative to, our potential as a team. I'm looking forward to this matchup a lot.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting name on offense that you bring up, Carter Brady. I just looked him up. He's originally from the South Florida area as well. Stoneman Douglas, big powerhouse high school baseball down there. But he actually started his career at a South Carolina Upstate and played at a JUCO and first year with FAU. Like you said, he's doing pretty well. But their offense is not really like ranked very high in the conference. I mean, they're 8th out of 10 in OPS at a team OPS of 761. And their offense really might be the reason why they don't have as winning of a record as they would probably like. But there are some names to watch out for. I mean, Richard kind of mentioned Jalen DeBose. He's an outfielder. He's a real speedy guy. He's just a kind of like not a big guy. He's 6 foot, 160 pounds, but he's lean. He steals a lot of bases. He's got a 910 OPS for FAU. Christian Adams is a left-handed bat. He's a senior. They also got him from a JUCO. He's got a 931 OPS. And their catcher, John Schroeder, leads the team in home runs with 7. So despite not having one of the higher team OPSs in the conference, they do have some dangerous hitters to watch out for. One thing I would say about their offense is they're a little bit prone to the strikeout. They have the second highest team strikeout rate in the conference at 23%. But they do show a good ability to draw walks. They have the second highest walk rate in the league at 12.7%. So overall, it's going to be an offense that will present challenges. It's not extremely high powered. They have the same amount of team home runs that we do, 41 home runs. But it's really going to come down to our team being able to play a little bit better, especially on the pitching side of things. But I guess that could kind of take us to our next segment, John, where we can kind of talk about our team.
Yeah, that brings us to round 4. Where to begin with that? I mean, over the last 7 games, we're 1-6. I mean, what better time to turn it around than now? In my opinion, I think that the only constant for us has been offensive production, but I think that your quick ticket to turning this around is waking up this pitching staff, maybe they can take some notes on their boy Joey Bolini, because he's been pitching really well. Last week he threw 6 innings, only giving up 1 earned, striking out 12 and walking none in that span. It doesn't get much better than that. He's been dominant, purely dominant. He's back to the guy we saw as a freshman, and I'm really excited to see him continue to represent our bullpen, and hopefully other guys can step up and with him leading as example. He's throwing 93 to 94 with a hook like David Wells. It's honestly one of the best breakers I've seen, and he has the second lowest ERA. He has the lowest ERA on our team currently, and he's been really electric. What can you say about Volini, Mark?
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see him be able to sustain his production throughout the season, because obviously anytime you come back from a injury significant like Tommy John surgery, you wonder, how that's going to hold up the following season that you're cleared to play. I mean, think about it. We haven't seen him really pitch since 2022. I mean, that was a full out 2 years ago now. And the first time I really saw him come back this season was when we played the road game at FSU. And man, he was just pitching extremely well there. I mean, he really popped out on the TV screen. And I even got a text after the game from Brett Nevitt, who I had spoke to earlier that week for an FSU preview. And he was telling me, he's like, wow, Joey Volini really impressed me. Apparently, Joey Volini even went to his high school, which is funny. But yeah, I mean, he was drawing rave reviews back then. I mean, I actually was at the game on Sunday and got to see him work in person. And honestly, he's just got a great presence on the mound. You saw this as a freshman, which was really impressive. Like in 2022, when he was a freshman, he had the second best ERA on the team that year. The only person he was behind that year as a freshman was Jack Jasiak, and now he has the best ERA on the team. So this is a guy that's had it figured out from the jump, and he still has it figured out. And to me, it's just like his mental toughness. Like nothing really phases the guy. He just kind of goes about his business. Doesn't get too high. Doesn't get too low. I think he's a really good example that the rest of our team can kind of look at and say, like, What's the mentality that Joey kind of brings out there? And definitely someone good to learn from, I think. But I think another thing I just wanted to kind of talk about from our team standpoint is just I feel like we're actually pretty close to playing better. Um, like you said, John, like our offense is pretty consistently productive. I mean, we have the second best OPS in the American, only 100th of a point behind East Carolina. I mean, our offense is relatively good overall. I mean, our stolen base rate is still pretty good. It's like 77%. There's really nothing you could point to other than maybe some scenarios where we're leaving some runners on base. But I mean, every team is going to do that to some extent. But to me, it's just I guess the best way I would say like we've been losing, it kind of feels like we've been losing by like death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's not like our pitchers are going out there and just giving up grand slams and 3-run bombs. And it's not happening like that. It's not like we don't have the ability to compete with our opponents. I mean, yes, we're 1-6 in the last 7 games, but we've only allowed 4 home runs in the last 7 games. It's not like these other teams are just dominating us and going yard left and right. A lot of it is coming down to unforced errors. I mean, you look at the last 7 games where we've really struggled. We've been giving up an average of, well, I have it written down. We've been giving up an average of 6.3 walks per game and 3 hit batters per game. So in total, we're giving out 9.3 free base runners per game in this 7-game stretch. And on top of that, we are not doing a good job of containing the running game during this stretch either. So if you're going to be handing out nine plus free bases a game, and then you're going to allow the other team to steal bases, 91% conversion rate. They're 21 for 23 in the last 7 games. It's going to be very difficult to win baseball games.
Yeah.
The league average for AAC league average free base runners per game, which is walks plus hit by pitch, is 5.7. Okay, that's not even great, but we're giving up 9.3. We're spotting the other team 3.5 extra base runners every game just on small unforced errors. It has nothing to do with talent level, skill level. And then we're not doing a good job containing the running game. Really, we're not holding base runners on as well as we could. We're just not. When you're 21 for 23, you should not be allowing your opponents to steal 91% success rate on stolen bases.
I'm looking for that rate to come down a bit with Buff behind the plate. I'd like to see him get some more starts behind the dish. He's been struggling with an injured thumb off and on this season. I think he's battled another injury as well. But Buffington is a name that I would like to see turn that trend around a bit. What about the starting rotation? For me, I think that one solution, and tell me what you think about this, Mark, is sending Madonna to the hill on Sundays and adding Lawson Gailey to the bullpen to add some back end depth and stability because we know he can go multiple innings. We know his baseball IQ is up there with the best of them. His stuff isn't quite as electric per se as Don Madonna's, which is why I'd like to throw Don Madonna out there for a Sunday start. But the kid's dialed every single time he gets on the bump. He lives on the black, and honestly, he's just been doing it right. I mean, amongst all 4 of those names, his numbers are the best. He's he's the only one of those the 4 starting candidates. He's the only one sporting a sub-5 ERA. He's thrown 23 and 2/3 innings and struck out 18 and walked 12 this inning. What do you think about that theory, Mark?
No, I think that honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if Coach Mole does that this weekend. I mean, nothing against Lawson Gailey. I mean, he definitely hasn't done bad. It's just that I think Dominic Madonna, being a 5th-year senior that he is, and having the stuff that he does from a velo standpoint, it kind of makes sense. And I think also, Dominic Madonna is more accustomed to 5 inning outings, 7 inning outings. That's kind of what he did his whole career at UNF, going, deep into ball games. Whereas Lawson Gailey, yes, he did start some games for us last year. He started some games for us this year, but he's kind of been most optimal when he goes and gives you 2 3 inning spurts. Um, at least from what I've seen from him so far. By the time he's a junior or senior, he might end up being that 6 7 inning guy for you. But I think right now he is kind of more of a 2 3 inning spurt kind of pitcher, which is perfect. Which, like you said, that would help stabilize the bullpen a little bit. I mean, if you could see Lawson Gailey twice per weekend out of the bullpen, I mean, that would really bolster things. I feel like, especially considering that a lot of arms in our bullpen have struggled lately. Um, it's not to say that they're not good. It's just that they haven't pitched well in the last week or two. But like I said, a lot of it is being driven by these minor things of these free bases and these stolen bases, more so than getting absolutely rocked out of the park. It's not really what's happening. But yeah, I would be game to see Madonna start Sunday for sure.
Yeah, and anytime you play musical chairs with your bullpen, whether it's coaching decisions or injuries, with us more so being the latter, it's never gonna go well. This bullpen has on paper the names to be a shutdown pen, but we're losing guys left and right. And we don't know who we're going to throw out there. I mean, names like Logan Beavis. When have we seen him pitch last? I know he's struggling with injury. Kyle Scrape, one of our most elite bullpen arms. Absolutely dominant through the first half. Also went down to injury. He's trying to come back to form now. I would love for Bryce Archie to start performing better out of the pen, because I think that if he can really dial into his role as a mid to back end relief pitcher for us, it never hurts having 95 coming out of the bullpen. But I mean, call me crazy. I still have a lot of faith in these guys. I still have a lot of faith in Coach Mole, and I think that this week off is going to pay a huge dividend for us, and that's a benefit that FAU can't speak on, because they had a midweek where they took an L to Miami in the midweek. So I mean, we've had some time off to get dialed. I really think that we're going to start seeing kind of a tournament mentality out of Mole, and it's going to be win today, F tomorrow. There is no tomorrow without winning today. And if there's one thing that we know that Billy Mole can do, and that's play tournament ball. And if that's what we're signing up for, dude, I'm here for it. And that's where a name like Lawson Gailey could come in huge. You can go back to back days going 2 to 3 innings. Like it, yeah, you can go back to back if you're limiting your outings to 2 innings. So I'm really excited to see how we respond to this.
Definitely. And I wanted to follow up on a name that you mentioned, Bryce Archie. I really do think that having to split time between two sports earlier in the spring, especially as a quarterback and all the drills that they do and et cetera, that's going to fatigue you, especially as a pitcher, where you need your legs well rested under you to be able to, generate force, velocity. Now that spring football has been over for about 2 weeks, we've seen Bryce pitch twice, and his last outing, which was on this past Sunday, was his most effective in a while. And I think a lot of that does have to do with just being better rested, being able to just solely focus on baseball right now. I think you're going to see a really strong finish to the season from Bryce Archie. And another reason I say that is because I think the role that he's in right now is more fitting to where he's at. You're looking at a guy that really didn't play competitive baseball for 2 years, so it might be asking a lot for him to be a 5, 6, 7 inning starting pitcher. Whereas, he can come in once or twice a week with his adrenaline of, he's coming into a game and, throwing 95 miles an hour like he does. If you bring that in once or twice a week uh, to opponents, that's going to be kind of like surprising for them to deal with sometimes, to have a guy on the back end of the bullpen that's not necessarily your closer, not necessarily your setup man, but he still has got some really good stuff. Yeah, that could be advantageous for us for sure.
Let's try one more new thing. Give me your one name on the offensive side and one name from the pitching standpoint on your picks to click for this weekend.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think this weekend, I think we're gonna see a really good weekend from Jackson Mayo. Um, I think that he's had a really good season, his best ever as a Bull in only 3 years here. But I feel like he's kind of cooled off a little bit. But these two starting pitchers, they're both right-handed pitchers. Him being a lefty, he should see them well, especially the second time around the batting order. Um, he's a guy that I think if he can get going and he has the power, we could actually use some home runs. Let's looking at the last during this losing streak we're on. We haven't really had many home runs, and I'm not advocating for let's try to yank it over the fence, but it would be good to get our power hitting guys going. And if Bobby Bozer is still healthy, which I think he is, he's really only entering his third or fourth game fully back. So his power might get going. One thing I think could click this weekend is we could start getting our power back. It hasn't really been there the past 2 weeks. Maybe with the rest, maybe with Mayo having some good matchups, maybe with Bozer being healthy and getting some ABs under his feet again. Maybe we start to see home runs again. Like when we were up at Charlotte, you saw a lot of home runs. I think that's something that could come back for sure. From a pitching standpoint, I think Jack Siebert gets back on track. He had an uncharacteristic start last week, only going 3 or something innings, giving up 6 or something runs. I think he's hungry to have a good bounce back week. He takes a lot of pride in what he does, and I don't think he's going to have 2 bad starts in a row.
I love it. Yeah. So for me, I would say my offensive pick to click would be Marcus Bodil. The kid's been absolutely on fire lately, and he's actually been effective against both righties and lefties. So he's not a matchup dependent left-handed hitter like you often see. And he's been doing it on both sides of the ball. He's playing a great left field lately, and I would say that Brody is my pick to click. Also, I was going to go with Bozer, but with you mentioning Bozer, I figured let's go Brody because he's been electric lately. And my pick to click from a pitching standpoint, I really feel like Hunter Mink is going to put a nail in the coffin to that sweep possibility on Friday because it's going to be like I said, everything that I know about everything I've gathered is it's about win today for them. So I really think that they're going to come out and try to make a statement. Hunter Mink had a serviceable start against Rice, gets spoiled late, but before that, he was pitching really, really well. I really like Hunter Mink to come in and restate his claim as the shutdown Friday night ace. That's my pick to click for sure. But moving on to the final call, that is about it for us this afternoon. But one thing that I would like to say is we're on the tail end of an 8-game homestand, and I really just want to emphasize on packing the red. The last time we had that place bumping was against Wichita State, and look what happened. We swept. So if you don't have any plans this weekend, please come out, support your Bulls, get out there in numbers, and cheer them on to victory, because I really think that if we can turn things around this weekend against FAU, we could really get hot, and it's all about getting hot at the right time in baseball. And also, I just urge everybody to remain professional and supportive as we go through this, and keep them horns up, baby.
Awesome. Couldn't say it better. We'll talk to y'all
All
soon.
right, from Mark and myself, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Thirsty Thursdays. Keep them horns up and go Bulls.
Go Bulls.